All right, team, for your listening enjoyment, we have the one and only Ann Coulter joining us now. She is the author of not one, not two, not three, 13, in fact, New York Times bestsellers, of which I have actually read all of them, so that's always kind of fun. Ann, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to talk to you, Buck Sexton. You're one of my favorite people on Twitter.
Thank you so much. These days, it's kind of lonely when you point things out on Twitter about how the so-called experts. I've just been asking the question, and not just on Twitter, but also of other doctors I know. What exactly do these people know who are making the calls? And behind closed doors, other brilliant doctors will in fact tell you they really don't know very much. What do you make of all this, Ed?
Yes, and this is obviously not a scientific sample, but I do have a lot of doctor friends, and they don't even know one another, both in LA and New York. And I've noticed that by and large, in fact, 100% of my doctor friends are think that the reaction is somewhat exaggerated. And all of my non-doctor friends are freaking out scaredy cats.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, which state are you in during this lockdown?
Mostly California. New York is unlivable.
Yeah, New York is where I am, and it's rough here right now. So at least California is doing better with this. But let me ask you about how Trump is handling this whole thing. You know, you've been somebody who early on you said that Trump had something special. I'll never forget the Bill Maher the Bill Maher call that you made about how he was the most likely one to win, and now you've had criticism for Trump when he's messed up on things. How's he doing now on this?
That's a really good question. It was funny. Early yesterday, I was thinking to myself, I'm always making fun of these 3D chess people, but it looks like Trump is actually pulling it off here. He wants to open the country, doesn't want to get blamed for it. And right now, he's in a situation where the media is demanding that he open the country and saying he's dragging his feet. And this economic catastrophe is entirely on him. And, we'll have to turn to the governors. And I thought, genius. That's how we reopen the country. I mean, however it's done, I assume, bit by bit, some industries, until there's either a vaccine or enough testing to show that it's not as transmissible as believed, which is possible. That's among the crucial data we don't have yet. And then, man, this guy is easy to play. You could get Donald Trump to admit to participation in a crime by saying, no, you just drove the getaway car, right? Nope, I shot the 7-Eleven clerk. That was me. I mean, he did it with the Russia investigation. You will remember that. He goes through this whole procedure of getting Rod Rosenstein to write that letter saying we're getting rid of James Comey because we think he made a lot of mistakes in the Hillary investigation, and announcing it was back on, and then announcing it was off, and this, that, and the other thing. So we request that the FBI director be fired. And then Donald Trump, everything's great, it's going fine. And then Donald Trump goes on Lester Holt and says, oh, no, that was my decision. I decided to do it anyway. Yeah, it was because of this Russia stuff.
He has an alpha to omega complex sometimes that comes out.
And that's exactly what happened at the press conference. I mean, there were many great moments at the press conference. I love the aggressive Trump. I would have put together a much better video, but it was okay. I liked him doing a video. I think he should do videos at all his press conferences. I love him being aggressive with these swine reporters who aren't reporters at all. They're like the liberals who show up at my college speeches, hectoring him. We're not getting any news out of this. They're trying to become stars. But yet and still, they know how to manipulate him. Say, well, you don't have the authority to reopen the country. And what does he do? I have total authority to reopen the country. And by the way, my complaint here is not that he said something that is not technically constitutionally true. I mean, I understood what he meant. He clarified it within the confines of the press conference he's talking about in the context of a viral pandemic like this. Of course he has all sorts of methods to decide whether the country is going to be reopened. Fine. If state doesn't want to reopen, he can say, well, then you're not going to get any of this this recovery money.
So I think
there are all sorts of things he can do. That's not what I'm complaining about. What I'm complaining about is he had just eased with no effort on his own. The media had moved the decision of when and how to reopen the country off of President Trump and on to the governors, and no, they manipulate him into grabbing it right back.
Well, this is my point is that they don't know. I think the press can't decide what the better situation is for bashing Trump, because on the one hand, they want him to be, they don't want to admit that he's had a big role in this, because what if, by the way, the reopening goes pretty well? Right. What if he pushes for a reopening and it's not as bad as people said, and now it looks like there'll be this big rise for him in the polls. But on the other hand, if they allow the governors to do this, well, if there's a catastrophe in one state or another, it was on the governor. Right. So they don't know what they're rooting for. I think that's what you see in that press room.
They're going to bash him. You were 100% right. No matter what he does, they're hysterical. He doesn't shut down the country earlier, which is absurd, but then he does it, and they blame him for the results of the shutdown. Now they're saying reopen. He says, I have the authority to reopen. No, you don't have the authority. So it's true that whatever he does, they are going to say it's his fault, he did the wrong thing, he's a monster, an authoritarian. True. All that is true. Yet and still, he was in the position yesterday morning of getting this off his plate. And it is, as you say, a Hobson's choice. Bad things are happening right now with the government shutdown. But whenever it gets reopened, every coronavirus death is going to be blamed on the politician who reopened the government. It doesn't matter how many lives were saved because we were allowed to go out and get fresh air and go to the beach, and businesses don't go under, and families aren't going, and family businesses and small businesses aren't going bankrupt. Those horrors and deaths will not count. Only the coronavirus death will count. So you don't want to be the politician in the position of being the one to make the decision. As of yesterday morning, through no effort on his own, the media had politely moved that off his plate, as you say, just to harangue him. So why did he take it back for himself? Now it's him again.
Yeah, I think it was a mistake. I think you got to I think letting the governors lead it and him backstopping, which is actually really, from a federalism perspective, I think what should kind of happen. But that's a whole other.
And from a medical perspective.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of these states, the ones that are being browbeaten by CNN and MSNBC, who have not gone through the full stay home, don't get fresh air, don't exercise, stay home and transmit viruses to one another. They're actually doing quite well. Different states are different.
Yeah.
Rural communities are different from cities. Places with public transportation. I think public transportation. I'm not a doctor, but gosh, it sure seems noticeable. In addition to things like spring break and Mardi Gras, one major transmission vector appears to be things like subways.
Yes, and another thing that has been left out of this, and I don't know if you've had this experience yet, Ann, but I keep seeing things that are written, at least purportedly, by doctors, Medium posts, and other things that will pop up where doctors are theorizing or say anything that's against the consensus right now, which the consensus changes about this week to week. Masks being the best example. Like, masks were not necessary, then they were necessary, then we need. So it's interesting to see that consensus shuts people down. But I see things that get pulled off the internet, and two of the areas that I believe we're going to find out were really just overlooked in the panic to do the maximum here. You mentioned, transmission at home, intrafamilial transmission, particularly in New York. We're already seeing some of the data, and the governor has mentioned this, but he doesn't want to get into it. That's been terrible. But also nosocomial infection inside the hospitals. Telling everybody to show up to a hospital to get tested. This was a terrible idea.
Yes, and also to keep them in the hospital. I mean, much like a politician deciding whether to reopen, a doctor in an emergency room has to decide if somebody comes in showing, symptoms of Chinese virus, flu, pneumonia. What's he going to do? You're going to give him a hospital bed. You'd be mad not to give them a hospital bed. Whereas during normal times, they might say, okay, we're taking the test. We're sending you home with this oxygen breather and I don't know, Tamiflu, and we'll give you a call in a couple of days. Yeah, get them out of the hospital.
Yeah.
That would be the better thing to do, but can you imagine doing it now? What if the person goes home and dies?
Yeah, before COVID-19, and I've been saying this on my show just so people can really know that it's an important statistic. 80 to 100,000 people every year die from an infection that they got in the hospital. That's a lot of people. So it's worth noting.
It's like the old, the John Lott point on guns. Liberals always say, people who own guns are more likely to be shot in their own neighborhoods. Well, I think that's why they have the gun.
Right.
Living in bad neighborhoods. It's like saying more people die in hospitals. Don't go to a hospital. You'll die there.
Hey, Team Buck, thank you so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up button so then it will log as liked. And also, if you want to see more great content from The First, please click subscribe.